Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Raybearer, chapters 25, 26, 27, 28, and yes, 29. In these chapters, so fucking much happens. This is a packed section, but all you need to know is that Tarisai is a queen, and we mean this in every goddamn sense of the word. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
All right, Rashawn, tell me what you thought.
I mean, it was fucking amazing.
Yeah, this is a good section.
It's really, really good. It occurred to me reading these sections how often we have the very, very common device of, a young kid who doesn't know what their actual family history is, that they're descended from some kind of greatness,
sure.
And how they have to claw their way back to that greatness and fight for that recognition, and then the hero we've all been waiting for. How often that shows up in our fantasy.
Yeah, a lot.
And as I was reading this, it struck me how Tarisai is kind of fits that very superficially,
Yes.
But the minute you interrogate it just a little bit more, it really kind of stands the whole thing on its head, because she has a lineage of greatness, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is been presented to her as a curse, something that she's been trying to fight against, and not fulfill.
Yeah.
And she has this mother who, is sort of existing kind of just outside the margins of the story. She flits around the edges, pulling the strings, and how simple and easy it would have been to just make this story about Tarisai discovering that she is a Raybearer, and of a lineage, and that this was always waiting for her to show up and claim.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But that's actually not what's happening. She is descended from this lineage, but there are people who want to deny her that in the form of the emperor.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are people who want to exploit that in the form of her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to and really what we're reading is her trying to figure out what she wants to do with this, right? Yep. And so when we get to that the fourth, we get chapter 29, and she has the trial. It was one of the most satisfying fucking things I have read in a long, long time.
Agree.
It was
really, for me, it was very unexpected. Was it unexpected for you, or did you kind of see it coming that she was going to do something like this?
When we find out that she sends the little message to Kia, to the woman she had met on her travels, right?
Yeah.
I was like, what is that's weird. What was she want with her? But I had no idea this was her plan, right? And it's so brilliant and so ballsy. That she's completely within her right. She has studied, she knows her shit. Mm-hmm. She's allowed to do this, and the way I'm so afraid for her now.
I know.
I am.
You're
so scared for her.
That she did this thing, and it's badass, and it's just you said brilliant, but then you think about the repercussions, and you're just oh babe, run away.
Yep. Yeah. I was, and then after the meeting when she goes to see her mother in the tower, and just how heartbreaking that was, and how and then there's a quick line that she, after the trial thing, where she says something along the lines of, the lady is looking at her with something she's never seen before. She's looking at her with wonder.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you goddamn right, because none of y'all was ready for my girl. Y'all didn't know she had it in her,
Yep.
But yeah, it just spectacular, really, all of it. The bits with Jeet and them coming together finally felt so right. You know what I mean? It felt like I wanted, like we knew that they liked each other, and you weren't really sure if they were going to find their way back to each other, and then all this other shit is going on, and then when there's a line, he says something about, he's saying something about her mother, and she says to him about, well, it's like with your father,
Yeah.
he's awful and da 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 da, but you still, like, he's still your dad. Like, would you change it? So whatever she says. And Jeet says something to her about how maybe that's what the point was. Having him as a father is what enables me to understand your story, or something like that. And I was like, God fucking damn it.
Yep.
It just, so good. so good.
All right. So let's back it up and we'll go to 25. We are still, because we're talking about like being in the capital and everything, we are still in Swana at the beginning of 25, and Wu-In leaves and doesn't say goodbye or anything to
Kira. Is upset.
Yeah, she's trying to be cool, but
he could have at least said goodbye a couple times, and I was just like, well, I know Kira is very sensitive, but she seems to be taking this extra personal. And then we find out why. They did a little something,
They did indeed.
What is that really gross saying?
I have no idea.
They're a little strange for some change or whatever.
Wait, what is it?
It's something like a little strange for some change. It just implies, like, you're dipping into like a little something on the side, that you wouldn't normally do.
That sounds,
there's a little
to
bit
me
of a
like
connotation with sex work. There is a connotation of like sex work involved, but not always.
Okay.
It could just,
So,
but
the change could be money, or the change could just be a literal change of scenery.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but
yes. I do not endorse this or approve of it.
So yeah, they're back at like the Children's Palace, and they haven't been there in quite some time, and it's been refurbished, after the fire and all that.
There is so when they go back, did you think that she was going to go and see Dayo right away? Like,
I didn't.
So you expected her to sort of put things off the way that she does?
I was really, I expected her to put things off. Yes. I was wondering how. Like, I was like, are they going to try to hide her in the city? Like, you can't hide her. She's an anointed one. Like, how are they going to manage this? I knew it felt to me like she wasn't going to want to be with the whole council again, and she definitely wasn't going to be anywhere near Dayo. But I just wasn't sure where she was going to be. I thought maybe they were going to stash her away in someone's house, or because I was thinking, well, once she gets to anywhere close to the palace, they're going to be able to sort of sense her, so she can't hide. So how are they going to pull that off? And then it made much more sense where it's like, oh wait, no, she is back at the palace. She's just going to insist on being as far away as she can.
Gotcha.
So they know she's there. So it's not like she's in hiding, but she's going to be separate. And I was like, oh, okay. That makes more sense than what I was thinking.
I had sort of expected her to finally like talk to them and tell them. And I think that the reason for me thinking that, apparently she had forgotten what Dayo said to her, but I hadn't. The fact that he said you were stronger than her and you resisted her, I was very preoccupied with the fact that he said that. And It bothered me a lot that she
Wait.
hadn't asked him.
When he says that you resisted her,
You were stronger than her. You didn't reach my heart. Remember when she stabs him?
right. I remember when she stabs him, he says you remembered.
You remembered?
Isn't that what he tells her?
No, he says you didn't hit my heart. You resisted her. You were stronger than her. And that's what he says to her in this section. He reminds her of saying that. You don't remember that?
No, I do, but I thought he said something. I thought he explicitly said you remembered. But you don't.
I don't
remember that?
recall him saying that. I might have that wrong. Well, what I was saying was that he says that she resisted and was stronger than her mother, indicating that he knew some of what was going on, but she doesn't ask him about that.
When he tells her in this last chapter that he always knew who she was, so you're saying that you were frustrated that she doesn't ask him that right when he says it?
No, like, well, when he says it, but he's like dying, so I get not asking him right then. But I mean, like, I would want to get in contact with him or ask Kira to ask him, or just be like, look, there was something that he said that made it sound like he knew what I had been sent to do and was like referencing that. Can you find out what he meant? Because I don't understand that, you know? And then when she sees him here and he says, like, I knew, I thought when she returned to the palace that she would go and see him because she had questions.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? That there was like something. So the fact that she refused to go anywhere near him, as much as I understand the impulse that she is having and like trying to control that, you could be close to him and speak with him without necessarily setting eyes on him. Figure out a way to communicate with each other. But that, like, the thing that he said just didn't seem to be on her mind at all. And it kind of bugged me that it wasn't, because I would have been completely consumed wanting to know what that was. I was only a reader. I wasn't her. And it distracted me a lot. So
I wonder, like, was we find out that he has been trying to contact her this whole time, and she's been like, just like destroying his messages and not reading them. And I'm looking I just went ahead to like the chapter where he shows up to her door at night and she doesn't know it's going to be him. I'm looking for the part where he says the thing about what he says to her when she stabs him, about how you were stronger than her. And he tells her that, I always trusted you because you saved my life so many times. Like, I always knew that the lady had wanted you to kill me. He says, suddenly you missed my heart. That means you're stronger than her. Okay, that's the part you're talking about. You remembered is what she says.
Wait,
and then,
he says to her is what she says?
She says, it says, I murmured. She goes, you remembered, I murmured. That's what you said when I stabbed you. That's her talking to Dayo.
Oh, okay.
You remembered, right? And then later, he says to her, after he says, you missed my heart, that means you're stronger than her. So he does say to her when she stabbed him, you remembered.
What does he mean by that? Just that she remembered who she really is and that she didn't want to kill him, I guess?
That's what I'm confused about. Like, when this happened, when she stabbed him and he says to her, you remembered.
Right.
It sounds like you remembered all, because she had burned all these memories, right? She had burned all that shit out. When she stabs him and he says, you remembered, that's him acknowledging you remembered all the shit your mom put in your head. You remembered all the shit you burned out. And that's why you're stabbing me. You've remembered it. But then he says, you missed my heart. You're stronger than her. So you remembered what she wanted you to do to me, and you did it, but you missed my heart, and that means you're stronger than her.
I took it as you remembered not like that yourself, and you missed my heart because you weren't completely taken over.
Okay, I got you. So I read it the opposite. I read it like she stabs him and he goes, shit, she remembers what her mom put her here to do.
Ah.
But then because she doesn't murder him, he's saying, but you remembered, but you're stronger than her. You missed my heart.
Gotcha.
You didn't do the thing.
Hey, adjust your mic.
Good Lord. If you guys could see it, it looked like a very sad man's penis. The way
What
it
is
was
happening
hanging
with
down.
it? Why is it drooping all the time? You've been having to adjust it a lot.
If I told you I thought it was the cats, would you believe me? Because they don't have thumbs.
I don't believe you. No, it's
But
not.
but they sometimes I'll come home and it's like tilted to the side because a cat has been up here.
They're podcasting.
Listen, probably doing better than me and you both.
They'd have
got
some
like
real
60
fucking inflammatory
Right.
shit on there.
But that's really interesting that we both took that and but interpreted it a little bit differently.
But yeah, my point was really about the fact that he obviously knows something, and it doesn't seem to take up any space in her mind. Doesn't that seem weird to you? Wouldn't you want to know what he meant by that means you're stronger than her? Then who? What do you mean? Why are you bringing up her all of a sudden in the middle of this?
In hindsight, of course, but I'm not going to lie. At the time, in my mind, I'm in her mind, and I just stabbed this person that I didn't want to stab, and now I'm horrified, and I'm a monster, and I just want to get away from everything, and I don't want to have any questions.
Yeah, I don't know. My first time reading it, I was just like, well, what does that mean? And yeah, I drew your attention to it at the time, and you didn't seem to remark on it at all, even though I pointed it out. So yeah, I was like, why am I the only one who has this question?
Mm-hmm.
We sort of skipped over a bunch of stuff, but she asks if she can have a room as far away from everybody else's as possible. And they agree to give her a different room, but they try and make it closer. They just basically disregard what she specifically asked for until she gets kind of unruly about it.
Her attendant, who I just fell in love with. I don't know why. I just really love this lady. She is not understanding that we are trying to be as far away as possible.
Not getting
so she's
it.
Just like, this room is great. What about this room? This room is fine, right?
She's getting real irritated at the fact that she's finding fault with everything. And I'm like, yeah, well, none of them meet the one requirement that she has.
And then they finally find a room, and the first thing the attendant is like, we're going to get rid of this door and give you a nice flap. And Tarisai is like, the door is the point.
Oh my God. I need somebody outside of that. I need a whole thing.
It's like in the room where she ends up is just clearly not up to the standards of the council. So
yeah,
they're she's already redecorating in her mind, this lady. They're going to get some shit up in here, get some curtains, put some nice rugs on the floor, get some dresser.
Yeah, when she comes out, she has a little meeting, and then when she comes out here, they are busy bees. It's like the middle of Queer Eye over here, and they also are so do you want your
with the palettes
to be this right up against his, maybe right together, maybe just maybe right up against each other, perhaps almost one palette, maybe.
It's very, very cute,
and they're
no.
giggling, and she's like, no, that is not what I need. And they're like, okay, we won't do it. And then they fucking do it. They push them together anyway. Before they scurry out of the room. You guys,
I know we find out later that there's all kinds of rumors and bets that she's pregnant with Jeet's kid because they haven't seen Tarisai in so long. There's the other council members are just like, I bet she's knocked up.
I love that they're like, all right, what's our story? Because we got to come up with something. You got to make it look like this is Dayo's baby. Everybody get in ranks. We're figuring it out.
And they're on the task too, 100%. Right? They're ready.
They are committed to avoiding this scandal on her behalf, and everybody has fucking money in it. It's really something.
I really do love. I mean, it's the whole council thing is one part kind of creepy, but there's another part of it that is really, really wholesome. Mm-hmm. That really appeals to me. the idea of connection, especially a connection that deep, that intimate, that extends to being able to share thoughts with people, to feeling more yourself, more alive, more healthy when you're around, and then the sickness when you're separated. Like, that is some real fundamental human shit, right? But also this human shit, poor turn phrase.
I didn't pick up on that, but yes, thank you.
But then, like, also how they interact with each other.
Yeah.
It's a very, like, siblings, but also, like, there's, like, undercurrent of, like, sexual thing, energy that's happening. I don't know. I just love all of it. Even though we haven't met the 11, we met some more than others, but I just love the idea of it,
Have you gone into her Instagram any further since we last
just whatever, just what you send me, because I don't want to accidentally get spoiled.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I never know what she's gonna pop off.
True.
So
she has, how sometimes people make a little, like, TikTok where they're, like, playing music and they're like, I'm gonna sing a song about a thing that happened, but it's not gonna rhyme.
Yes.
And I'm just kind of singing. And she does a song like that about how the school she went to, there were only, like, 25 people in her graduating class, and they got really, really close. And that she then wrote a story about people who are super close and read each other's minds and get sick when they're not near each other. And their friends were like, is this about us? And she was like, no.
That's funny.
So yeah, this is very much a personal experience thing, and some of these characters are based on her, like, real friends apparently. So that's fun.
Her the few things you have shared with me, though, she does seem just delightful. Like, I'm sad that I can't just follow her, like, on GP, but again, spoilers, so I have to be careful. Okay, so she is set up in this this little room away from everyone else, and that's where she's going to be hanging out. Then she has a run-in with Mbali.
She gets summoned to see the Emperor, and Mbali catches her just before she goes through the doors to see him.
And she tells her to remember the mango tree, which was from their first meeting when she was a candidate, right? She takes, like, the story. And so Mbali says, what is it? Remember what happened when the boy grew afraid of his tree. He cut it down. He burned the branches. But as long as the tree stays in its pot, as long as the boy believes it will never grow. That's it right there. As long as the boy believes it will never grow. That is so powerful. It's like 6 words. But fuck, right?
And when she's like, don't you remember it? And Tarisai's like, the mango tree, no. And I'm like, how do you not remember that incredibly powerful story? And then I was like, oh yeah, that was like years and years ago for you. My bad.
But yeah, like, as long as you're not a threat and you stay in your place, the boy will be happy and he won't be threatened by you. And that was some fucking timely advice.
Indeed it was.
Because she gets called in for a one-on-one with the Emperor.
Yep.
This is a big deal. Best I can tell, they haven't even seen this dude since back in the day.
Yeah.
When they all first showed up as candidates, right?
Yeah.
Like, they've been out at the grown-up castle, and our people have been, away at Children's Palace, and then wherever they go now. I don't think they're still at the Children's Palace. Are they?
I think they are. Yeah.
But it's like 2 separate worlds.
Yeah. Definitely.
Because Tarisai and her council, they're just in the wings waiting until it's their turn to rule, really, right? So she gets called in by this man who I mixed emotions about.
Do you?
We meet him briefly at the beginning, Then we get some backstory. But when I say I had mixed emotions, I mean more like, well, we'd only had a glimpse or 2 of him. Maybe when it's his turn to tell his side of the story.
Oh my God.
Maybe something will be. Yeah, maybe he'll have something meaningful to say, right? Maybe he will express a deep sadness that I didn't know was there, maybe he'll confide to Tarisai in private that there was like a regret and a longing, a sort of a, I wish I had done it different. I don't know. I was hopeful.
Even though you knew he had captured her mom?
I wasn't sure, one, where the mom was being held and the conditions in which she was being held. Sure. That becomes clear later on, But I was just really curious, like, how is he going to approach this with her? What route is he going to take? Is he going to, this hurts me more than it hurts you? to have, you know what I mean? Is he going to do that thing, But really, what he does, it ends up being even more despicable than I was prepared for, which is saying a lot because I generally am prepared for men to be trash all the time, every day. But apparently there's a small part of me that's always like, maybe he'll be different this time. Not all men, right? Maybe, maybe he'll prove me wrong. Maybe he'll be something different. But alas, that's not what we get. And she plays him so well.
Yeah, she does.
She plays this so perfectly. He is telling her basically that she is going to have to sentence her mother to death.
To prove her loyalty.
That is what this grown man is saying to this young woman. And seems to be really enjoying it too. Like he seems kind of smug.
There's
and
a
you guys,
glee to it for sure.
I'm not a fan of smugness. We've talked about it before. It's one of my least favorite qualities.
Which is really shocking because we're best friends, but
you do like smug,
I am
don't you?
smug a lot, and I'm not proud of that, but I'm gonna own it.
I think it's the things that you're smug about, though. And that
makes sense.
That's why our friendship works. Yeah. Because you're smug about all the shit that I absolutely do not care about. So it doesn't bother me. Like, you start talking about food and tea and decorating, and I'm just like, go ahead, girl.
Or I'm smug about the exact shit you care about, and you're like, you're right to be smug about that. I think that can happen as well.
That's the other piece. Because even though I'm not outwardly smug, I'm inwardly smug. And you also speak to that part of me.
I read all the time about these characters who are like, I tried to hide my smugness. Nobody likes somebody saying, that's what I told you would happen. And I'm like, no, tell them. Tell them you said that, because you said it. You said it, and I have it in writing several chapters ago. In print, it said. Go ahead and remind him.
I need to do that more. I need to be more smug out loud.
Do it.
Girl.
You're supervisor now. That's like part of it. That's the job.
Yeah.
Put smug on your resume. What qualifies you to be I am very smug. I have that. It's a quality I'm working on developing.
Patrick in the chat says that the self-awareness cancels out the smugness. So
that's how it goes in my head too, Patrick.
Yeah. So he tries to tell her, the Emperor tries to tell her the story, his version of events.
Yep.
And his
pants are on fire the whole time.
on fire. And I love that Tarisai is like, inwardly, she's like, these are fucking lies, you goddamn liar. But she is playing her role impeccably. And he tells her that, oh my God, I don't want to, we're not going to go sentence by sentence, but I just really love it. He says, why do you think your mother's in prison? And she says, I heard she was caught trespassing.
Yep.
And then later on,
she needs to be led down the path. She doesn't take a single step that he doesn't guide her down.
when he talks about the punishment, she's like, I didn't realize death was punishment for trespassing.
Yep.
It's so good. It's so good. So he's basically, again, like you just mentioned, you're going to demonstrate that your loyalty is to the Empire, and then tries to couch it in, not for me, but the citizens need to see that you put, all of us above. Yeah, whatever.
I really like how it's constantly worded as he arranged his features in a sympathetic expression. Like, it's always worded in such a way that it's clear he doesn't feel this way. He's just doing a thing to make this face. Like, I like that.
Yep. I loved it too. And I loved it. And I'm curious too. Is that something that she's picking up on, or is this just how he moves? Are other people like, oh, there he go fixing his face again and all that bullshit? You know what I mean?
I don't know why fixing his face to tell is like such a good way of phrasing it, but that's like literally, like, that's a turn of phrase. But here, that's like literally what's happening. He's like, let me adjust my face to sympathy mode so that I can tell her a sympathy thing.
Right? So I'm curious, like, is it just like, because one of the other things too that you have to think about, or that I think about at least, when you have this council you're surrounded with who, and Kira and Tarisai have a really devastating conversation about this a little bit later on, and we should probably speed things up. Mm-hmm. But they talk about how they have been conditioned and bred and trained for years and years and years to serve this empire.
Yeah.
Right? So if you are surrounded by people who have that very same agenda, that same training, do they see the emperor fixing his face, or do they just see him and take him for whatever he's giving because they just been together for 30 years? You know what I mean? And Tarisai, because she's not one of the emperor's council, she is looking at him like, look at that fucking face. You know what I mean?
Yes, I definitely do.
But so he's telling her, this story about her mother that we all at least it looks like it's all lies at this point. And there's a moment where Tarisai is like, because the emperor's like, we're not going to tell anybody who she is, the lady.
Right.
We're going to just say she's some crazy woman from Swana, who's committing treason. She's a literal nobody, yet somehow she's getting the highest tower,
right?
And being put to death.
I'm going to do you a favor and not tell. And I'm like,
yeah,
sir.
And she makes the same face. Yeah. She's like, she's not trying to protect me at all. He's afraid someone at court is going to know who he has up in that tower. Mm-hmm. So he's trying to keep it quiet, and he wants it done fast because he doesn't want any evidence or anyone to even be reminded that there was a female Ray.
Yeah.
That this is something in our history. Like, he wants it squashed. So, and what's the one line? She does ask him, if you knew about all this, if you knew about the second Raybearer, you knew my mother was a traitor, why did you let me be anointed? Mm-hmm. And the emperor says, because it was time to rewrite the past. And that's something he says. And it sounds good when you say it.
It sounds like, oh, we're going to let it go. But that's not what rewrite means, everybody.
That's not it. And she looks at him and she says, I understood then right there the true reason that I had survived, period, is because if he had killed me, he would have been admitting the possibility that I was a Raybearer. And also, killing me would be him admitting that the lady was right the whole time. And lastly, and most disturbingly, is that he kind of enjoyed watching Tarisai grow up in the palace and commit herself to the empire and be in Dayo's council and all that shit. He took pleasure in that.
Yeah, he was like, well, I couldn't subjugate your mom, but now I've thoroughly brainwashed you so that it's difficult for you to even consider that what you're like, what you've been taught isn't true. And that's very satisfying for me.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And at that moment, I stopped thinking that maybe he had redeeming qualities.
Yeah, that's fair.
That window closed.
This whole thing and him saying like you're gonna sentence your mother to death. It's so he hasn't given her the charges yet. Like he is front loading this announcement so hard, and it's the sort of thing where it's like I don't. There is so much cruelty wrapped up in it. It's so cruel in so many directions. He wants the lady's weapon turned against her.
Mm-hmm.
He wants Tarisai to demonstrate how completely in his power she is. He wants to erase the lady entirely from everybody's memory and history. And just like there's so much about it that's so ugly and so gross. And he wants to take away Tarisai's first case, like take it out of her hands and make it into something that's like it's just the one thing that she can do that can't be undone. And he's like, oh no, we're not going to let you have that. Nope. I just hate him so much with this. It's so gross, the whole thing.
It really is. And I made like a joke about it a little bit earlier, but I really wasn't prepared for how awful this was going to be, that the Emperor was going to be. And we had seen him, we met him a little bit, we knew he was shady, we knew he was kind of shitty, we learned the back history with the lady, but a lot of even that history made him seem weak and fragile and insecure. But I also, in my mind, I kept thinking, but they were still so young.
Yeah.
They were so young when all this happened. But he's a grown-ass man now. And he's still on that same shit.
He's literally the Emperor, and he's still insecure. Like, sir.
Yeah.
What do you need? Yeah. Then maybe it's not about that.
Isn't that always, I don't want to derail us, but y'all know.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all know. They can have all the power and it's not be enough.
And it's still like, well, it's the woman's fault that I don't feel dominant.
Yep.
You have...
What else do you need? What else?
Maybe you're not feeling dominant has nothing to do with us. How about that part?
Oh, that's not possible, Natasha. I mean, don't you have the internet?
How am I supposed to feel dominant without somebody to dominate? That's not what that means, but okay. So then we move into part 4 because she is asked to go see her mother.
This was hard.
Yeah.
This was super hard. I am finding that a lot of the conversations with her mother are deeply, deeply upsetting.
Yep.
Yep. Not that I'm not saying my mom is, like this, but there are just a lot of undercurrents of this relationship that I think resonate and probably for lots of people.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe specifically mothers and daughters, but I'm not going to discount mothers and sons from this either.
Definitely.
Yeah. There's just the, parents in general, all the things that get mixed up. Mm-hmm. You want them to see you and acknowledge you and have a certain amount of affection and stability and caretaking. You want them to be proud of you. You always, at least for me as a child, no matter the treatment, there's because Tarisai is coming to see her mother in prison and has in her mind an image of what this reunion is going to look like that's not based in reality. No. It's not based on any of their past relationship, but yet she still thinks she's going to show up and they're going to have this heart-to-heart, right? Mm-hmm. Because as a child, that is what you do with your parents pretty much your whole life unless you get some help. You keep fucking imagining these scenarios that are not based in reality. There's nothing about her relationship with her mother that we have seen, that she has experienced, that would suggest this reunion is going to go the way that she has pictured it.
Yeah.
And yet she pictures it all the same.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets up there, and real quick, this tower where they call heaven,
Yeah.
it's got the veil
Oh,
mood,
yeah.
like energy, right?
Yeah, I see that. I was thinking more the tower that Gandalf is kept in, that he jumps off of, you know?
That, yeah,
But yeah, the
too.
veil as well, the sky prisons, or whatever they're called, sky cells.
Yeah. So she is out, and we find out that she's basically just trapped on a roof, really. And she's exposed to the elements. There's no real shelter. They're pissing and puking and shitting over the edge.
Yeah.
And we find out that the people of the town, of the city, like to look up and try to figure. You can see like a piece of the person. You can't really see their face so far away, but you get the indication that there's someone up there.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like a community kind of like ogling, or is it ogling?
I think it's ogling. Yeah.
I think it's ogling too. You know, and you kind of like look up and point and laugh, and oh, someone's up there suffering. And Tarisai mentions that when she was younger, she didn't even really think there were real people up there.
Yeah, she liked to like sort of pretend that the sounds she heard were the wind and things like that. Yeah. I'm like, man, Tarisai, your whole childhood is like one big denial.
Listen. Anywho.
She just told herself one story after a fucking another.
Right? Anything to get through the day. So she goes to see her mom, and her mom is just, first of all, she calls her ungrateful.
This whole conversation is so ugly.
It's bad.
I was so glad that at least she has the conversation with Jeet later, who's like, what the fuck? She's manipulating you. She's manipulated you every day of your entire life from the moment that you were born. That was literally what you were made for. Before you were born, you were being manipulated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why can't you see that? And I was like, look, I get that she's not going to hear you, but I needed somebody to say it. So thank you, Jeet.
Listen, I was so happy that he said it out loud, said the thing. And he asked her, like, do you want to share the burden? And she's like, I don't want to share. But and this is when she brings up his father.
Yeah.
You know, and then he just says, she apologizes for bringing up the father, and he says it's fine. I guess the only gift father gave me was a way to understand you, a way to share the burden.
Yeah.
And then I just crumpled inside into a million little pieces.
But we sort of skipped over like what happens with her mom, because her mother is like, I can't believe that you're here. You're obviously going to abandon me, and who cares about blood and the fact that I'm like your literal mother? I guess it doesn't matter to you. And then at one point, Tarisai asks her to call her by her name.
And she will not.
She won't do it. And instead of like Tarisai getting mad about that, she's like, I can't believe that's what you're focusing on right now. That I am up here in prison, and you're just so ungrateful that you'll just demand these things. And none of this has anything to do. And it's like, she sidesteps the issue so completely and turns it into something else so totally. And Tarisai fucking falls for it, and it breaks my heart.
Tarisai confronts her mother about the fact that you let me believe you left me all those times, and you were just another part of the fucking house, and you knew I was missing you and wanting you. Why would you do that to me? And her mother says, you had a lovely childhood, which is fucking gaslighting.
Yep.
Like, that's that shit, right? When you try to confront your parent about anything as an adult. I don't know if you guys have ever tried that. I mean, I both do recommend and do not recommend.
Yeah, I hear that.
You know, in the way that they receive that information varies. But in this case, her mother is just like, I gave you a wonderful life. You had tutors. You never struggled. You were never in danger. And then she does the thing that people will often do, which is Tarisai's mother takes her suffering.
Yep.
Right? Because she talks about what it was like to be exiled at a young age. She's like, do you know what it's like to be on the street, to be hungry, to be alone, da-da-da-da-da. And you never had to go through that, so you don't get to question it. Which is really deeply unfair and doesn't excuse your treatment of your daughter.
No.
But that's a thing that people will
It's
often
such
do.
a common, it's like, it's wild to me how quick people are to act like there's only one version of suffering, only
Mhm.
one version of inequity, only one version of being taken advantage of, or, you know, like name a thing that is related to injustice, and people will behave as if their version of it is the only one that exists. And if you
Mhm.
didn't have this happen, then it doesn't count.
That doesn't count. You don't get to say.
It's just
Yeah.
wild. Like, how is it possible to be that? Like, it's a combination of so incredibly self-absorbed and also so narrow-minded. Like, you don't have the imagination for other
Mhm.
types of suffering. And also, weirdly, I'm sure you have suffered in multiple ways, and you're just not acknowledging those right now. You yourself are focusing on this one thing that you went through, that you went hungry and were cold, but you're not talking about the emotional suffering, because you pretend that doesn't matter in the face of this other
Mhm.
stuff.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you're denying yourself this like opportunity
Yep.
to deal with things as
Yep.
well. You know, it's just, you're hurting everybody in the scenario, other people and you, by
Mhm.
just like ignoring things that are a little bit more nuanced or difficult and not as
That's
easily
difficult.
quantifiable, you know?
The difficult. Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh.
Because the thing too about what people are willing to acknowledge as suffering or hardship, often people will take the things that they feel like they've overcome, right?
Yeah.
So I used to be poor. I used to be hungry,
Yep.
but now I'm not. So that's fixed and done, and I'm good now.
Mm-hmm.
But the more difficult shit, the more emotional, vulnerable shit that hasn't been worked on and hasn't been healed, that's the part they're not going to talk about.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And also, if I used to be poor and I'm not anymore, and that's fixed and done, I can then say, so if I did it, anybody can do it, and now you have
Mhm.
nobody to blame but yourself, and it's your own fault.
Yep. Meanwhile, you're still a whole walking wounded person,
Mm-hmm.
hurting everybody around you.
Yep.
But you're not talking about that part though. It's all those blah 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 happened to me, and I grew up fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know
You didn't.
that. Yeah, newsflash, sir. Do you see how you're behaving on the internet? You did not. You are not okay. You are not fine.
This moment, I didn't mean to be ungrateful. I'm sorry, Mother, about everything, and I will forgive you, she replied. Like, how did we get here in the conversation? How in the fuck did we get to you apologizing to her? You are the child.
That is how good they are.
Ugh.
And when the last thing her mom says to her when she's leaving is Tarisai says something like, I'm gonna be back, don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady says, you have never worried me, daughter. You have only disappointed. Like the way I would have let her rot.
Right?
She would have never had to worry about seeing me again.
Look, there are times where I'm like, I understand that you have your love for your parents and your family despite everything. And then there are things where I'm like, I'm sorry, no, I would have walked away at this point. And I honestly have not been put to the test in a lot of that. So maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I wouldn't. But I don't know. I could be awfully pissy. I fucking think I might. I'm just saying.
I've had a lot of really difficult things happen, but I haven't had anything as harsh as that line ever said to me from either of my parents. Like I've never had them say anything like that to me in my life.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would be like to hear. For all of my burdens, that particular type of energy hasn't been one of them.
Yep.
Like my parents have always said, said the right things. Mm-hmm. And always do the right things, but often they said the right things.
The easy
but
part.
just like flat out to your face, you have only ever disappointed me. I don't know how you act. That's fucking like Jesus Christ.
And I have always, and this might sound like cold-blooded to me, but I'm going to be real with you. People talk about the importance of family. I don't see it. You know, like, it's not to say that I don't understand why families are important to people in general, but people talk about family above everything, and I
Yeah.
don't get it. For me, that's a
Yeah.
toxic mindset. Family first, family above everything is a cult. That's a control tactic. That is a way to make you pliable and get you to do things and manipulate you. That is not
That's
a
an
way to live.
in.
There's no boundary there.
There's an in group and an out group. And we'll do anything for our in group at the expense of whomever else is on the outside. I like the idea of that in theory, if we can choose our family.
Well, that's the thing, is like, family is an accident. You wind up with the family you wind up with purely by chance, and you're stuck with that as family. And so so often the people who say family above everything are trying to get you to do something for them, but when you're needing something, they don't show up. I've seen that from people a lot. So for me, every time I hear it, it gets my dander up, because it just feels like a warning flag, like a big red waving flag of like, this person is trying to play you. And it's very transparent, and it doesn't really make sense when family is accidental, that now you are obligated to this random group of people who may or may not have treated you well ever in your life.
Right.
That you are like somehow beholden to them to do whatever and reshape your life for them sometimes, depending on the circumstance.
And in some circumstances, it really is that extreme. You know, like, I mean, I didn't have that particular experience, but I know that there are people out there whose families dictate everything about their lives, where they make choices about their partners and their livelihoods and their careers and their schools based on, well, my family approve of this, you know? And that is, I think, the toxic part, you know, sacrificing for people who won't sacrifice for you in return, you know? But,
yeah, so.
But then some of us come from a broken home and we don't have no problems.
You know?
So, ha!
And I had like such a weird thing with family because of my father and where he came from, and not everybody being up here, and people who were, I wasn't very connected to because of language barriers and distance barriers. And then my mom's family, I really did not get to know very well. And so personally, I haven't had that kind of speech coming at me. And if anybody tried it, I would fucking laugh in their face. So anyway, the conversation ends with her just like extremely upset, going to talk to Sanjit. And I love this. She starved you of affection on purpose. She forbade people from touching you, all so you wouldn't learn enough to ruin her plans. And to keep me safe, I pointed out. She let you make your first friend, he said slowly, and then ordered you to murder him. I frowned in the dark, but she was trying to give me a future. Bitch, no, she wasn't. She was trying to give herself a future. Why do you think she was trying to give you a future? This is what I want him to say to her, but he doesn't bring that up.
No, but this is when he goes into she's just manipulating you.
Yes. But I really wanted him to ask that question, like, after you stabbed Dayo, what future was there supposed to be for you after that? What did she say you were going to do then? Nothing. She didn't give you any further orders.
There was no exit plan. There was no escape plan, as far as I know, right?
So
she would have just been dragged off to the wolves, and she would have been on that roof tower.
Exactly. So, like, I wanted him to ask her that so bad, and just kind of like get her to fucking have a bit of a reality check, but he doesn't.
I do like that he says, how can you think that's what love is? She made you ashamed of wanting your own name. How can you think that's what love is? So I think they Oh, this is when they get a little close.
If you guys could see Rashawn's face right now, she's bobbing in her chair.
It's so cute. And he I think he puts the anklet back on.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think he tries to. Does she let him?
Oh, he reaches for her foot. You're right, and she moves it away.
Yeah.
And she says, "I can't offer you something I don't have." And he says, "I don't want something. I want you." And then she's just like, "Well, I don't own myself yet." Basically, right? She says, "I don't belong to myself." But she does tell Jeet, "I love you too, but you can't be my savior." And he says, "Well, I won't be your jailer, so what can I be?" And she says, "You can be my hope." And then I just floated away, you guys. Like, I just rose up out of my body and floated away.
There's a really good line here, too, where she says, I knew deep inside that love had never fixed anybody. It only gave them the strength to try again and again. Something like that.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that, because people try and act like if somebody loves you, you can do anything. And it's like, right. I mean, you can do anything, but they don't do it for you. It's not like a magical formula that just fixes shit. Right. Appreciate it.
So she lays down with Jeet, and she has a dream. She has a Jeet dream, basically.
I don't know why, but that felt so disrespectful.
It does a little. I didn't mean it to come out like that, but it sounds too much like Skeet. Like she had a Skeet dream, and that's a whole other thing. But it's like a memory of his when he's quite young, and he is caught dancing by his mother.
Yeah.
And they have he's terrified that she's going to tell his father about it. And she's telling Jeet that, he's more than just a fighting bear, that he could be a healer. She's seen the way his hallow works, and also telling him that he should go be a candidate. It's a way to get out of this life. Yeah. And it ends with him noticing a bruise on his mother, and it's clear it's from the father being abusive. And she says, she kisses him on the cheek and says, "You will never make your living by causing pain." And that's just like a little thing that she experiences through Jeet while they're sleeping.
Which is unfortunately really apparently sweet. Like super untrue. But
yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah. So, oh my God. And the next morning they wake up, and now there's like drills. Jeet's got to go, because this whole thing that's happening with the Unity Edict that is just wreaking havoc across this realm.
Yeah.
And causing riots and unrest. Unrest. Girl.
What?
Have you been watching what's going on in France?
Yeah. Listen, anybody listening who is anti-capitalist, may I recommend the anti-work subreddit, because there is some really fascinating stuff on there. But for those who are unaware, was it the governor of France?
Macron, and I think he just suggested. I don't even know if it's been passed into law. Raising the age of retirement,
without putting it to a vote, is what happened.
Raise the retirement age.
Yeah, 2 years he raised it, and they have lost their ever-loving minds.
Meanwhile, ours have been raised. Like, I don't know if you guys know or not.
We're working to the age of 77. Not really.
There's it's like 72, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
But that's still obscene. 70 fucking 2. Theirs went to like 64, and the French was like, "The fuck out of here."
I love the French, man. They will just, somebody's like, "We're not going to import that cheese anymore." And you can immediately hear bottles breaking. Somebody's just like the smacking sound, and somebody hitting the floor. Just fucking done.
They really do stay on go. They really, really do. I admire it. I wish they weren't so fucking racist, because then I'd be like, I'll just move to France. But
yeah, I saw this film of like a camera panning across, and it's just like all these people protesting, and then cops beating the shit out of people with batons, and then many, many things on fire. 2 years raised for retirement. I found it out after seeing that scene that was what it was about, and my jaw hit the floor. I wish to God we would be like that here. We have so much more to protest against. Why? They've really fucking figured out somehow the way to keep us docile.
Listen, they really have. We never had the fucking guillotine.
That's it, huh?
Like, the French were like, that shit worked for us.
Yeah.
This is a tried and true plan. We know this works.
Yeah, we haven't had anything like that over here. We got to do our first one. We need like a...
We don't know it works.
Man, I got to make a... There's a
different podcast.
There's a part in a community episode where two girls are like mud wrestling, and one of the guys leans over and says, "Somebody just moved to the top of my to-do list," and it's really gross.
It is.
Yeah,
gross.
It's super gross. Everybody makes a face, but somebody took that and screen capped it, and then put over that, "Somebody just moved to the top of my to guillotine list," and they post it in response to articles about fucking Elon Musk and shit all the time. And that is really an energy that we should be making a lot more literal and less figurative. I really think we should.
100%. 100%.
Anyway.
So, all right. So let's move it up a little bit.
Yeah.
We're running out of time.
She is she's doing research about this case with her mother, trying to like find some evidence that there is a female Raybearer, ideally finding the other mask. And
there's the one empress that we know about whose name I can't say. Ayatoro, and we find out that she is the one who is responsible for the library and the idea that knowledge should be for everybody, which of fucking course it was the woman who did that, right? Like that completely checks out. And there's this drum that Tarisai has been carrying around, and her and Kira, because meanwhile she's still trying to do the meditations with Kira to find her purpose,
right?
Doing the belly song, right? And so there's a moment where they are playing with this drum, trying to figure out like what's going on with it, and the drum is telling them what did they figure out? It ends up saying?
Always inside. Yeah.
Which is still cryptic.
It's very mysterious. Yes. Yeah, and this there's a moment too where she's like at the library and she sees that there's like an interesting painting on the ceiling. And it's two like interlocking gold rings. And I was thinking that was like the ray, like two Raybearers.
That's what I mean? Thought. Yeah, it was like described as like two discs, like two sun discs almost.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, so that thing with the drum, it doesn't really quite go anywhere here, but she's in the midst of doing it when she sees Dayo come out, and she tries to do a thing where she's sort of like inoculating herself against the reaction that she has when she sees him by watching him and holding on to the sunstone that helps her control her impulse. She's keeping her eyes fixed on him and noticing that he looks like he hasn't been sleeping, and he really just looks like shit. Things are not going super well for Dayo, as we find out.
Yeah, we find out it's not going great. And then we also find out that she continues to visit her mother and sneaks up some things that make her more comfortable, like a little blanket, some balm, because she's just out on this roof exposed.
Yeah.
It's not great.
Yeah, so her skin's all chapped and everything.
Yeah, she's bleeding. At one point when she's talking to Tarisai, she like dips her hands in water or whatever, and they're so cracked that it's just bleeding.
Yeah,
it's bad. So Kira's helping her study. They're going through all the scrolls trying to find anything, and they just really don't have any luck finding the evidence that they're looking for. And time is running out.
Yeah.
It's getting closer and closer to the big trial day. Like that shit is like on the horizon. And they're running out of options.
Yeah, this is starting to get pretty bleak. And I remember just being like, I don't see how you're getting through this, man. Like, what are you, It felt very hopeless to me, I gotta say.
When we get to chapter 29 and the opening line is that it's the night before the fucking ruling. And I was like, well, shit. It's the night before and we haven't got anything. We got nothing. We got bupkis. What are we going to do tomorrow? I didn't know what we were gonna do. And then oh my god. Tarisai is thinking to herself, and I was confused here because she starts going down the ways to die.
Right.
Right. And I was like, what is she doing? But really what she is she's realizing that the Emperor doesn't know exactly what weakness the lady has.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because she has only a partial counsel. So she is not immune to everything, but so what would he just do? Just like try and infect her with a contagion to see if that killed her. And then if that didn't work, he just tries to hit her with a hammer. And then if that didn't work, like he's just like, I don't know, like light her on fire this time now.
Yeah, she says he's probably going to try every one until he finds it. Like
that is so embarrassing. Sir, if you don't want people knowing that there's another female Raybearer, maybe you want to find a like guaranteed way to kill her before you have,
or maybe just do this in private.
Yeah, you know, maybe like, he'll do that.
Maybe it shouldn't be a spectacle.
People are going to want to see it now. You had the whole thing. You're wanting the whole like ruling to be public. I feel like if I were a member of the public and you had the ruling be public and then you didn't have the execution be public, I'd be feeling pretty ripped off. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, real talk, nobody knows who she is. Not that I would support taking an innocent person, but if I'm the Emperor, the lady can be in a dungeon and some rando can be on the roof who just goes down at the first time you shoot whatever at them and they just drop like a bag of dirt.
Yep.
Done. And she's in a dungeon while you figure out how to kill her. But that's just me.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting. I like that.
Because they don't know, they can't see her up there. They don't know who that
exactly.
is. He doesn't want them to know who she really is. So
although it is mentioned that they like cleaned her up, and in Tarisai's opinion, that's a mistake because she just looks so fucking regal.
That's right.
That it's like, oh, you really had to make like you don't want her to be anybody, but you look at her and she is clearly somebody.
Yeah. Clearly somebody. I do love that. Some people it's just unmistakable. Like you're like, oh yeah, that bitch somebody. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you picture? Do you have anybody in mind when you picture the lady?
Oh. That's a good question.
I don't do this with every character. Like some characters I can't picture super well. Like Tarisai, I pretty much picture like the cover. I don't have like, an actress in my head or anything like that.
I am in love with this idea of casting though. Who would I cast?
For the lady, you know who I picture? You're going to laugh. Erykah Badu.
Oh, that's good
because she's like, a part of me loves her and a part of me is like, you are so problematic. Like you are such a mess.
She is my fave problematic auntie.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like exactly.
Like I love her so much, and then she'll put up a post about fast girls, and I'll be like,
right?
What?
Just shh. Stop it.
I like love her like 9 out of 10 times,
yep.
But that one time, but she really comes out with some shit. And you're just like, girl.
And she has this like regal, like you cannot touch me sort of vibe to her, and the heavy lidded eyes. Everything about her feels like you're in awe of her and a little intimidated by her, but also a part of you is like, yeah, but you're fucking shady. Like, you know what I mean? She's just like that perfect mix to me.
She's got a real like ethereal kind of spiritual thing going on, but also real heavy on the hood because she's from Texas.
She's like super spiritual, but like in the way that she smokes a lot of weed also. Like
yeah. Like she's like she's a doula, right? She's a birth and a death doula.
Nice. Okay.
So she does really occupy that space in real life.
All right.
In a chat, Patrick says the lady is the actress who. Oh, that's good.
Oh, who plays Bilquis in American Gods? Since Rashawn did not deign to finish reading that for the rest of the public,
I did not because I was going to mess up her name. So I knew you would jump in. That's real good.
I didn't watch that, so I'm not sure who the actress is, but
look
if
her up.
She played Bilquis, it's got to be appropriate. So
that's very good, Patrick.
All right, I'm looking it up.
Very good.
Bilquis. I don't know if I am saying that right. So you're saying you knew that I would chime in and say, and I'm just like, I'm just
No, it's
hoping I got
Bilquis.
it.
It's her name, her actual name. I didn't know how to say.
Oh,
Yetidi Badaki. I don't think I'm saying that right.
Yeah, what is she was in something else. I know her face. I'll find her. But yeah, that would be a good cast. I see that cuz she's also kind of got this like, I don't know. There's a look to some people's faces where you're like, I can tell that you think a lot of yourself and mostly you deserve it, but like not entirely. You know? Yetide Badaki. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm not saying it right, I'm sure. Or it might be Yetid Badaki. Might be Badaki. I'm not sure whether you put the accent.
Yeah.
She is in This Is Us, Criminal Minds, Rise, which I have not seen. None of those are what I know her from. The Magicians, that's what I know her from. Okay, yeah. That's what I know her from.
Earlier in the chat, Patrick said, y'all heard how the saying blood is thicker than water is actually originally the opposite. Blood of the covenant is thicker than water of the womb.
Yeah, that's one of many, like, it's not an idiom. What would you call that? But I can't remember the word for this, but when there is something that is like taken and actually turned into the opposite, like, well, you know, he's just like one bad apple. And it's like, well, the rest of it is rots the whole barrel. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's like the lifting yourself up by your bootstraps, which was originally an expression to denote how something was impossible to do, has turned into like, oh, you should just
do that impossible thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So the next morning, it is time for the ruling.
Yeah.
But the night before, she gets the visit.
Wait. Really quick. I just want to touch on her meeting with Dayo, because there's one thing that I feel like I want to give him credit for, and that is the fact that he is like, we are meant to rule together. I am not good at a lot of the job.
Oh yeah, that's where we are. He comes to see her the night before.
Oh, okay. I thought, because you were saying the next day is the ruling, so I thought we were skipping the night before.
No.
Gotcha.
So he comes and pops up and visits her, and like you said, you know, he just knows.
I love him so much for just like,
I do too.
You know? Ugh.
He first of all, he's like, you haven't been reading my messages, ma'am. I have been sending messages.
You've been leaving me on red. Rude.
And she says his matter-of-fact tone made me shudder. Because she said you shouldn't be here, and he goes, because you'll try to kill me again. And she realizes that his ray is not reaching for her.
Yeah.
And
so she doesn't know what he's thinking for like one of the first times ever.
First time. She's always been able to look right at his face and know instantly what he was thinking. And now there is this wall sort of between them.
I hated that.
And it broke my heart, but then I think I misunderstood what was happening here. And that's why I was so sad. Because I thought that like something had been broken and ruined. But really it's not that he's disconnected from her. It's she's separated herself from him.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at first I thought it was he had cut her off, and I was just like, no, don't do that.
Baby, no.
And we find out that Kira has, been bringing him up to speed. And we can't be mad about it. We stand a good friend.
I love Kira so much.
And also, G has also told Dayo a bunch of stuff about Meilu's pool. And she says that to Dayo, she says, you know what? It doesn't matter. Even if I break the curse, right? You don't have to take me back. I fucked up. I'll just go. And that's when he is just like, leave, girl.
Yeah.
Like,
he's like,
how could you?
You're just going to break your promise again? She's like, what do you mean again? He's like, you said
right,
you would never abandon me.
And he seems almost just like, how do you not get like what this is?
Mm-hmm.
Like you, like how, I don't understand how you don't understand what we have here. But to her point, I guess, how could you imagine that kind of grace and forgiveness is available to you
Yeah.
when the lady is who is what you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
How can you even imagine that someone is like, no, you're still here with us. You're still part of us, you know?
He literally
Like,
says, like, when she isn't there, that he feels like a piece of him is like missing.
yep,
And
yep,
that just was like so sweet and so sad, knowing that like he looks like shit. He looks like he hasn't been sleeping because you aren't around. It's pure you.
yep, yep. When he says, she's like, you should have anointed me. And he says, I knew the whole time. And this is when it's finally to your earlier point about like, why aren't you asking these questions, ma'am? These questions have never occurred to her.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
when she says, I knew the whole time, she doesn't have anything to say. She's dumbfounded. And he just says, you know, I mean, I knew. I knew who you were and what you were. Like, I knew you had the right. Like, of course I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just like, what? How? I don't understand. What's going on?
I just really appreciate him being like, look, I'm really good with people and that's all well and good. But there's like, you know, the ruling part.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I'm mad at that. And you obviously know what to do a lot of the
Yep.
time. He says, like, I see pieces. And then you see
the whole
the
thing.
mosaic.
He says to her, after she stabbed him, he says, when I woke up and you were gone, it felt like being stabbed again.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, like, what?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, it felt like, it wasn't like losing a friend. It was like being erased. Like I lost half of myself.
Yeah. That's really intense.
Like, you guys.
I love how she has managed to make Dayo somebody that when Tarisai says my belly song was to protect Dayo, I'm like, good.
Yep.
Because normally you tell me my belly song is to protect somebody, and I'm like, whatever.
And especially protect the man,
right?
Protect the crown prince who's about to be the ruler of everything. Like, meh. But this felt like absolutely, I was 100% on board. Like,
protect Dayo at all costs,
all costs. And yeah, he's just like, look, this is like you said earlier, like it's supposed to be the two of us.
Yeah.
That's how it's meant to be. And
this is non-toxic masculinity, everybody.
It's what we have been asking.
That's all we want. For somebody to say, you're good at these things, help.
You know, and like as afraid for Tarisai as I am after what she pulls off at the ruling,
mm-hmm.
I am low-key also afraid for Dayo because this is not what his father wants.
Nope.
And I'm scared, like, if word gets out, like, I'm like, all right, y'all got to keep this on the low until your dad dies. And then when you're emperor, you can do whatever you want.
That's my thing is, like, how much does his dad know this is how Dayo feels? Because I got to imagine not at all.
I figure not at all. I feel like his father probably hasn't talked to him in any real meaningful way in ages.
Yeah, I have to agree with that.
You know?
I wonder if he feels Dayo's a disappointment. Because Dayo's not at all, you know, like, it's wild. People would call Dayo weak, and he's not weak, but he is very sensitive. Whereas his father would call Dayo weak, but his father is weak, like genuinely, actually weak.
But we find out that as a child, his father was also like insecure and more sensitive and was sensitive and then had insecurity because of that, because he felt like he wasn't performing whatever like a young emperor is supposed to be, right?
I mean, yeah, I don't know though. The fact that he was just like really liked her when she was pliant and
a pet.
Yeah, I feel like there's more than just I'm insecure over my like poor performance. That feels like a personality weakness to me. You know what I mean?
I do. I think that I will agree that Dayo and his father, even though they may have had some similarities, the way that they decided to manage who they were as people went in very different directions.
Yeah.
Where his father seems to have decided that the only way to tamp down and manage his own insecurity is by taking power over someone else,
Yeah,
right?
I see what you're saying.
And then Dayo is sensitive, but instead of feeling like insecure about that sensitivity and like I need to dominate people so I don't feel like, whatever, he just goes about it in a different way. And I think you're right. It is a lot about personality, like a just like sort of undefinable thing that makes people choose whatever path they're going to choose,
That's interesting too. Like, yeah, they both are people who would need a partner in order to function in a balanced way. But Dayo is the only one who like can acknowledge that. And Ekundayo feels like, or not, he's Ekundayo. What's his father's name? Olugbade.
Oh, yeah.
Olugbade feels like I have to be able to do it all. And if you suggest that I need help, then that's treason, which is truly like...
Yeah. And that thing that, like, you never know what's going to make an individual person choose one or the other. Like, you just know, you don't know what makes the person go, whichever way, Like, I don't know anything about Dayo's father's father. I imagine it's just a long line of men acting in the same way over and over and over again. I don't know yet what makes Dayo so special that he doesn't seem threatened by this.
Yeah, that's a good
in the way that his father did, It's just like, I don't know. That's just how people sometimes, and you don't really get a good answer.
Personalities are crazy.
But so they have this moment together, and he tells her that you see a mural where I see fractured pieces. You see systems. I only see people.
Yeah. And
we were meant to be a team. And that's when she realizes what her belly song is to protect Dayo, and we all cheered. And then she says the only way to ensure his freedom and his safety is to kill the lady.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, wait. I don't know if I want that. Like, I was cheering, and then it took a turn. Because I really wasn't interested in watching her sentence her mother to death. Like, I felt like that was just going to be too much on her, and I didn't want that for her. So then I was really like, well, how the fuck do we get out of this? Like, how do we get out of it? And then she just fucking rolled in.
And then she's
said,
like, this is how we get out of it. We just get out of it.
Do it. We just do the shit. It was the most satisfying second half of a chapter I have read in so long.
I love it so much.
It's so good. So yeah, they pomp and circumstances happening. I love the dressing scene too.
Yeah,
they're getting her all just so beautiful. Also, really quick sidebar: when she goes to see her mom the first time, and her hair is out.
Yeah.
And her mom is like, spies didn't tell me about that.
There is something about her, like, just very casually being like, oh, yeah, my network of informers who watch your every move didn't tell me about your change in hairstyle, which would definitely have come up because that's what it's like. Like, that would just make me very uncomfortable. That's all I'm saying.
And I love, too, because it's a subtle thing, but you guys will indulge me for a moment. The policing of Black women's hair is such a real thing. I don't know what it's like in other cultures. I'm not saying it only happens to Black women. I know women all around like talk about each other's hair and how we look. But there is a very, very specific thing that happens with Black women where we will decide your whole shit based on how your hair looks.
Yep.
You show up to a family function and your aunties and your grandmoms or whatever will, oh, your hair's still looking wild. Your hair's so natural. When you going to straighten your hair? It's a real fucking thing of conversation. It comes up all the time when it has no bearing on anything.
Yeah.
So I really, really love that moment when her mom is like, "Oh, your hair is all out," because that's some real shit.
Yep.
You know, it just is. But
yeah, the hair thing is, I appreciated that being like a sort of recurring theme, and her choosing to do what she wants with it being such like a moment, you know. I guess she doesn't really choose it. It's really more the Tootsie sprites that choose it, but they could tell she wants that because she just dunked her head and doesn't give a shit about him anymore. So I'll say that she chooses it.
And she felt so much better when it was done too, you know?
Yeah, it was definitely a moment of like, oh, thank God, guys.
Right? If you remember when they were braiding her hair and the shade they had when they were braiding it, about like, you know, women.
You're not like the ladies in the country with their unruly edges.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, we get the big ruling, and the whole council is there. Like both councils are there, you know, which is a big deal. And fucking Emperor is all excited. Thaddeus is all excited because they feel like they really have got her in a corner.
Yeah.
You know, they feel like they are just like Cheshire cats, you know, grinning ear to ear. And she fucking pulls the mat out and is like, well, I know what y'all thought we were going to do today, but it turns out it's up to me. And what I want to talk about is so-and-so, Kia, wants to suit Thaddeus.
I love this so much. He's like, so do you choose to try this case today? And she's like, well, if we're asking, no.
Right? Like you shouldn't have asked me if I chose.
I know this is part of the ritual, but it's also an actual question that I can answer in the negative. Yep. You left me a little opening there.
So good. If you had been doing your studies, you would have known not to say that.
May have not left me this loophole. I'm just saying.
So good. So good.
And she has the woman who is married to the merchant and is trying to name her son Popello.
Still fighting over this name,
and
because
she
the husband
points the finger at Thaddeus as the discord, the sower of discord.
You are causing trouble in my marriage.
Oh, can we go to like the Supreme Court and be like, you are killing me because my insurance will not cover my chemo treatment. You personally.
Really need to. Except our Supreme Court is garbage.
Garbage.
I know we only have a couple minutes later, so I won't say too much, but I did read a case recently. There had been a big case locally. A nursing company sued because they were docking their salaried employees' PTO time.
Ooh.
And so the lawsuit was like, if I'm salaried, you can't dock my PTO. That's part of my salary.
Yeah.
And the court said, no, it's not. Yep.
See, and where's the rioting? I ask you. Nowhere.
In France.
Fuck.
Yep. So if you're a salaried employee, but you don't meet productivity or whatever your company lays out as part of your deal, they can dock your PTO now. That's legal here in Pennsylvania.
That's fucking insane.
What
a cool place we live.
I love it.
So
I love
neat.
It here. I love it here. It's the best. It's super
We're
awesome.
very free. We're free.
Super free.
I have logic.
So much freedom. I have so much freedom. I can barely stand up straight. So she tries. She rules in favor of Kia, who is the woman who's come to court. That it is unlawful because this is part of the whole unity edict that's going on as well, right? Remember that they want to encourage these people not to use their own specific regional religions, but to pick a empire-friendly name.
Yes.
That's what's happening here. So part of what Tarisai's judgment is, not only are we going to do away with that, but we are going to encourage the storytelling of the individual regions and religions. and we're going to have a big festival where everyone's going to come and they're going to like compete and get prizes.
I love it so much.
You know what I mean? And the crowd goes wild. And I imagine, it's not in the text, but I imagine that the Emperor and Thaddeus and maybe somebody else, maybe some other people, unnamed men, but just the men, all had to pick their jaws off the floor.
I was going to say I'll shit their pants.
Right.
Just immediately.
That too.
Shit their pants. Super embarrassing for all of them.
And it is a wonderful moment. It's all legal because she has done everything within the letter of the law as it exists there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Patrick. And Bali is somewhere like, that's my girl.
Yes.
That's my girl. That's my girl.
I feel like she's laughing her ass off.
I hope so.
And Thaddeus comes out all pissed and she's like trying to hide that she's laughing.
Oh my God. Tarisai tells her mom about Thaddeus and Bali trying to like have a moment of connection.
Yep.
And it's like the one like moment they have together when she goes to visit her at the tower. And her mom is just like,
yeah, she's like, you don't seem to mention Bali without mentioning Thaddeus like right away also. What's that about?
But then after this like fantastic moment, it becomes clear that we have to get Tarisai out.
Yeah.
Because this is no good. They are not.
The fucking Emperor comes running and says, "Seize her," and Thaddeus has to be like, "Shh, don't do this now, dude. What are you doing? Everyone's right there."
Exactly. They're all watching right now. He's like so enraged. And so Thaddeus is just like, they haven't done anything illegal. The world is watching, Olu. This is not the time for rash decisions. And we'll sort this out in private, which is like the most ominous thing I've heard in a minute. We'll sort this out in private is never good for anybody. Anywhere. And I think somebody tries to escort her out the hall. Oh, it's the captain. Captain Bunmi comes and they all take her out to the side.
Yeah.
And
the captain who has a lot of loyalty to Tarisai in particular, which is great.
Yeah, and she sends that captain with Kia back to her village. And that's how it ends.
I love Kia being like, I don't think my husband's gonna argue about me naming our kids ever again. I just had a fucking royal edict revoked, so don't try me.
How you like me now? But this was so fantastic. It was wonderful. I loved it. I really, really did.
Yay!
I really enjoyed it. This book has just been a revelation. There have been some things that I haven't gone into in the recordings, but there have been some things that I've really meditated on and thought a lot about. It has just been wonderful.
Yay!
I said I in every episode with just saying how wonderful it's been, but it really has been a treat. Yeah.
I'm really glad that I decided to cover it because there was a part of me that was like, it's so short. Is this worth it? But I think it's worth it.
It is. I'm so glad you chose it. It's just been fantastic.
And there's going to be more. So hopefully it'll be a little bit of a longer feed eventually.
Yeah.
Once a girl does another one.
I hope people who are listening, if it shows up on their feed, if they haven't been listening along, pick up the book and read it, you guys. It's so fucking good. It's so good.
Real quick, I want to say hi to new patrons. So once again, we have got this week Gigi, Haze Free, Fike, Kate, Chang Shin, and Ariel Steinsaltz.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome to you all. I hope that you guys are enjoying the patrons only content. Harry Potter has gone private. Hopefully that's working out for people. I have seen some mixed experiences that I'm working on, but I know somebody was able to find it on Spotify still, which apparently I had to explicitly go into Spreaker and ask them to go take it down because I can't do it from my end, weirdly. So that's why that's happening. But yeah, that is something that I have added to the feed, like all of the remaining reread stuff. And I have shared the RSS link and the Spreaker link on the Patreon. So if you need it, go and find it there. And I think that's everything. Is there anything that you want to add, Madame?
Nope. We'll do it again tomorrow. Song of Ice and Fire.
Oh, baby. Song of Ice and Fire is about to start heating up, guys. We're
That's
getting
what I
to
hear.
the end of Storm of Swords, and it's popping off soon. It is about to pop off, sir.
I just don't even know. Now we're like getting into like off-show shit. You know, we're getting into all book shit. There's going to be a bunch of shit that's happening that people I don't know about, places I don't know about, plot
I'm going to
lines
start
and shit.
tweeting with that hashtag all book shit. I like
All
it.
book shit?
Mm-hmm.
Take
It's
it,
like it
take
could mean all kinds of
My
things.
gift to you.
Yeah.
My gift to you.
Maybe I'll make that a postcard. Hashtag all book shit.
All book shit, baby.
Oh my God. The way that you said that just now just reminded me of Snoop because of that video you posted with him dancing
did
in
you
the
see
bagpipes. He was having such a good time.
Wasn't that weirdly satisfying?
He is so goofy. I know that he is such a
really
mess and
is.
like so full of problems and
He really...
but like he warms my heart sometimes. I can't help it.
He's got a whole like affirmation thing that he does for kids.
Yep.
Have you seen that?
Yep.
Like sometimes I get so because he'll pop off with some bullshit, and I'm like when they were on the Super Bowl, he had just said a bunch of bullshit, and I was like, "Fuck Snoop," and I didn't watch none of that. But now I love him again.
Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.